there might be some decent push behind making this a yearly event, but turning it into a fucking music festival.
Yeah, if they made an annual event out of it with, people being like, there it is, Area 51, not gonna run at it.
This is gonna be the new Burning Man.
Well, we were right again. Sort of.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to another alien and conspiracy-filled episode, and today we are sponsored by DoorDash. We'll tell you all about them later, but first, let's go back to us being right about stuff.
Yeah.
Feels so good.
I know. It's been a little over a month since the Storm Area 51 They Can't Stop Us All campaign reached critical mass when millions of people signed up for the event, which resulted in mainstream international news coverage and an official response from the United States military. In the weeks that followed, the hype behind the whole thing, it gradually started to die down, as these things do. It was expected, but with so many people aware of the event, you really have to wonder if there would actually be at least a decent amount of people who would show up to the small towns that lay on the outskirts of this top secret military base just to have some sort of meetup and potential sightseeing excursion to the various borders and famous landmarks surrounding Area 51.
It was previously reported that local motels had already been completely booked for the dates surrounding September 20th, when the Storm Area 51 event was supposed to take place. But the options for lodging near the base are extremely limited, so having all rooms booked just means that, maybe a few dozen people have a place to stay nearby if they made the journey out there. Again, we have to say this every time, it's the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
These aren't even towns, they're more like outposts.
Yes.
Anyway, however, Vegas is just a short, 2 to 3 hour drive away, and obviously has more than enough hotel rooms to accommodate the registered attendees, even if every single one of those people who RSVP'd were to actually show up. We've already said in our older videos on the subject that we do think that people will actually show up for this, but that there obviously won't be any kind of mad rush through the heavily guarded gates and borders of the base. It would just essentially be an IRL meetup for fans of memery. People who don't want to get gunned down by the Air Force.
Yeah, they just want to meet other people in real life. Now, as
you
saw,
like memes too?
As you saw at the beginning of this episode, we've already also previously indicated that, if anything, someone involved with the original page or someone who wanted to take advantage of the large amount of attention that the event received could turn this whole joke into some kind of alien-themed music and arts festival. Well, it looks like that's actually going to happen, or at least there's going to be an attempt.
Ooh.
And we say there's going to be an attempt because we're calling it that. There's simply no possible way for the people trying to organize such an event that to be able to pull this off or pull off any aspect of it.
Yeah.
So brace yourselves for even more Fire Festival comparisons, because literally every live event failure over the past 2 years, big or small, has been called Fire Festival 2.0 or some variation of that. But if an attempt to actually host a Storm Area 51 fest in the middle of the desert with no pre-existing infrastructure to support it, with only a month worth of time to prep, and then have people actually show up to it, this could very well result in a complete fiasco on the level of Fire Festival. So you wouldn't be wrong to call it Firefest 2.0 if things go the way that we think they will.
Now, according to the report from the Washington Post this week, the man who created the original event is planning a real-life festival called Alien Stock near the remote base within the Nevada Test and Training Range. The 3-day festival, set to start September 20th, a celebration of aliens that promises surprise performances, art installations, and camping, and is expected to pack a tiny town already overrun by media attention and a spike in extraterrestrial enthusiasm. Now, the name of the event, Alien Stock, is already being used as branding by the local establishments, with the Little Aliens website claiming proudly that the motel is book solid for alien stock, but that more camping is available.
So the organizers for the event, including the original creator of that Storm Area 51 page, they've said that they expect anywhere between 5,000 and 30,000 people to show up, but that it's also, quote, hard to share precise interest numbers because they just started publicizing. But with their assumptions on attendance being so radically different, you could see how hard it would be for anyone involved to plan this properly. Even assuming that 5,000 people show up to a town that is only built to support its 50 residents and a few random tourists that visit every once in a while, this is going to be a monumental undertaking for them.
And they got about a month. Food, water, shelter, stages, bathrooms, showers, parking, electricity, medical staff, internet and phone access. All of these necessities and more would need to appear in the middle of the desert within a few short weeks. These problems are not lost on the residents of Rachel, Nevada either. They've already worried and have even posted a warning on the town's official website, which reads, September 20th event, please read. With the social media attention this event is getting, we want to clarify a few points for those not familiar with the area. Other than the Little Alien, a small bar/restaurant/motel, there are no services in Rachel. There is no gas and no store. The inn is booked for that weekend. If you plan on attending the event, you must be experienced in camping, hiking, and surviving in a harsh desert environment and have a vehicle in good shape. You must be prepared to be completely on your own for food, water, gas, etc. We expect cell service and the internet in Rachel to be offline. Credit card processing will not work, so bring enough cash. If you camp on public land, pick up all your trash. Expect daytime highs in the 80s and nighttime lows in the 40s. It is not uncommon to go below freezing at night in late September. But sure, come on down.
Yeah, so let's say you're cool with all of that and you just want to experience alien stock despite how inconvenienced and uncomfortable you might be once you arrive. What should you expect as far as entertainment and things to do? Well, first off, alien stock will be free to attend because the organizers, they're not looking to make a profit.
Oh, good.
But you will have to pay for parking spaces and campsites, and those prices will reportedly range anywhere between $60 and $140. Now, there's already a slick festival website set up that boldly asks you, are you ready for alien stock? And then it lists some details about what you can experience during the 3-day festival. Live music, drinks, food, and some otherworldly encounters. And while that sounds like it could be fun, there aren't too many actual details about any of those specific things. For food and drink, the only thing confirmed for the event is an Arby's food truck serving, quote, a top secret menu, because according to Arby's, aliens deserve the best meat on Earth. But Arby's planned this whole publicity stunt around the original event, well before the festival was ever announced. So they'll still probably show up with those meats.
As for the music, the only act that seems to be confirmed so far is an 80s-style rock band called Wiley Savage, whose most popular song on Spotify seems to be a cover of Amy Winehouse's Back to Black.
Mm-hmm.
There are also completely unconfirmed reports that Limp Bizkit would show up and perform at the festival. Come on! But these are all based on an Instagram post that the band made during the meme's peak, which read, "If you wish, we shall perform for the believers at #S4, let us know." But if we're taking joke posts literally, that also means that the Jonas Brothers could perform, because one of them tweeted about performing at the post-raid rave, or that Lil Nas X could be a headliner because he not only joked about performing there, but also released an Storm Area 51 themed music video for one of his Old Town Road remixes. But we feel pretty confident in saying that the likelihood of any of those artists dropping in for a one-off set in the middle of the desert is extremely unlikely.
It's not going to happen.
No.
Drivers, equipment transportation, generators to power the stage, gear, speakers, and soundboard, safe, air-conditioned temporary housing for the artists, sound checks, stage hands, crew, so on, so forth. Not exactly easy to produce a concert in the desert with such short notice unless these organizers are working with industry professionals. And considering the fact that this is a free event, there probably won't be enough money for a fraction of what they would need to make this whole thing a reality. And believe us, we're sorry for shitting all over this. It's a fun idea, and good for them for doing something for the people who do actually show up. But the chances are very low of this being anything more than a food truck alongside a small stage for 1 or 2 bands. Still, at least it's something. Just don't expect anything at all when you get there, and plan for the worst, and you might have an okay time.
They do have prostitutes.
Yeah, you will survive if you are an experienced hiker, camper, have a solid car with air conditioning, bring your own food, water, and bring enough money to have sex with the local prostitutes.
Yeah, cash.
Mm-hmm. Cash is king. You can't use the credit cards there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, try to remember what life was like before cell phones, because those probably aren't going to work either.
Nah, when I leave this festival, it's going to be like, what was life like before the Storm Area 51 festival? I don't remember anymore because my life has changed.
Well,
it's Woodstock all over again. Except it's Woodstock 99, because Limp Bizkit might play.
Come on! Anyways, before we get into some very, very weird conspiracy stuff, it's time for a word from this week's sponsor. Now, we're not 100% sure if the app works near Area 51, but if you're looking to find some food almost anywhere else and have it delivered directly to your door, look no further than this week's sponsor, DoorDash.
Mm-hmm.
Long day at work, tough day at school, back home and too tired to go out to eat or cook something because you spent your weekend rushing the gates of Area 51? Well, then treat yourself to the meal that you deserve and have your favorite restaurants come to you with DoorDash.
Mm-hmm.
Ordering's easy. Open the DoorDash app, choose what you want to eat, and your food will be delivered to you wherever you are.
With door-to-door delivery in all 50 states and Canada, order from your local go-tos or choose from your favorite national restaurants like Chipotle, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, or the Cheesecake Factory. let dinner come to you with DoorDash. And right now, our viewers can get $5 off their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter the promo code NEWSDUMP, all one word. That is $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app from the App Store and enter promo code NEWSDUMP. One more time, promo code NEWSDUMP. After you download the app, you get $5 off your first order if it's over $15. Info in the description below. There you go. Thank you, DoorDash, for the sponsorship.
Okay, moving on now. Apologies that there isn't any movie news on this week's episode of News Dump, but honestly, there really wasn't much to talk about aside from maybe the CBS Viacom merger and what that means for their traditional networks as well as both their separate streaming platforms. Spoiler alert, it's probably not great news for you, the consumer. It's just gonna divide all the content even more until we are all either subscribed to 50 different streaming services or just give up on certain shows or studios entirely. This is a Netflix household.
Yes.
So instead, let's bring you up to speed on a topic that people have been asking us to cover. Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. And now that the video is demonetized, thank you again to the sponsors and Patreon supporters.
And who demonetized it? Was it the Clintons?
Maybe.
Was it the Trumps?
So we're basically...
Was it the Russians? The Saudis?
We're just going to give you a rundown of everything that's happened over the past few weeks and how insane all of it is. But if you'd like to hear us talk more loosely about the whole thing, we did speak about it for a while on our exclusive podcast that went up this week, and that's available for Patreon supporters and YouTube members. So, shameless self-plug really quick. Click the link in the description to sign up for our Patreon, help support the show. You get some weekly bonus content, including that episode. Sorry to put this in the middle. We usually talk about it at the end, but we did have a discussion about this week, so thought you'd let you know. With that out of the way, let's talk about just how crazy this whole Epstein thing is and why there's now going to be an endless supply of conspiracy theories for a whole new generation.
Yeah, very quick character profile regarding who Jeffrey Epstein is, or was. He was a mysterious dude who was insanely wealthy because of his work with an investment bank called Bear Stearns, though there are no shortage of theories regarding what or who is responsible for his vast wealth. Now, throughout his life, he was very friendly with a lot of prominent figures, businessmen, lawyers, politicians, royalty, and scientists. And he's been filmed and photographed with plenty of those types of people, most notably Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Harvey Weinstein, Woody Allen, even Stephen Hawking.
He made a wheelchair ramp on a submarine so that Stephen Hawking could experience the wonders of a submarine.
Well, that's a nice thing that he did. What was on the submarine, though?
Underage women.
Yeah, apparently it was an open secret that Epstein was not only banging underage girls, but also that he was what we now call trafficking them. He had a private island that was nicknamed Pedophile Island.
Little on the nose.
And a private jet nicknamed the Lolita Express.
Again, on the nose.
Yeah, you may not be familiar with the Russian novel, but if you're a weeb, you probably still understand.
Now, back in 2005, he was arrested and pled guilty to soliciting a prostitute and procuring an underage girl for prostitution. According to his plea deal, he'd molested at least 36 girls, some as young as 14.
That's a lot.
And despite the severity of his crimes, he served an extremely short sentence in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail. But it's kind of a stretch to say that he even served his sentence because he was given work release privileges which allowed him to leave the jail 6 days a week for up to 12 hours a day. So he basically just slept there and then left.
Yeah.
Now, this whole deal, which is absolutely ridiculous and just further proves how the rich and powerful rarely have to answer for their crimes no matter the severity of those crimes, was brokered by a Miami federal prosecutor named Alexander Acosta, who would go on to become Donald Trump's labor secretary before being forced to resign once the Epstein case came back to haunt him. And there is a hell of a lot more regarding the Florida case that will make you extremely frustrated and angry. And we will leave links below so you can look into it yourself, but we can't go into everything right now. We would be here all day.
Yeah, this is going to be a 1,000-page book, multiple 1,000-page books within months. And probably those will all need to be revised a year after that. But
and the conspiracy theories, they don't start with his death. They start at the beginning where he got his money, which we talked about, and run throughout his entire existence.
Yeah, so. I believe it was the late 90s or early 2000s, a writer for, I think, The New Yorker or New York Magazine, one of those types of publications, did a profile on him. Even back then, it was just like, something is very off about this. This is a very sketchy man. Anyways, fast forward to recently. On July 7th, Epstein was arrested, and the following day, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York alleged that, quote, from about 2002 to 2005, Epstein, now 66, sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his homes in Manhattan, New York, and Palm Beach, Florida, among other locations, using cash payments to recruit a vast network of underage victims, some of whom were as young as 14 years old. So, at this point, Epstein's in jail, but his lawyers are fighting for him to get out on bail. But a little over a week later, a federal judge denies that bail, so now he's going to have to remain incarcerated until his court date. All right. Now, shortly after that, Epstein was placed on suicide watch after he was found passed out in his cell with injuries to his neck. But then, just about 1 week later, he was taken off suicide watch. And wouldn't you know it, on August 10th, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell due to what appeared to be suicide by hanging.
Now, in between all of this, information about Epstein continued to flow through the news cycle, including some very weird reports that spoke about his consultation with scientists regarding a desire to start a baby ranch in New Mexico, where he would have doctors inseminate women with his sperm in order to flood humanity with his DNA.
Yeah.
And also that upon death, he wanted both his head and penis frozen so that he could eventually be brought back to life and also be able to attach his own penis to whatever body that his head would be attached to. You gotta keep my dick.
I need it.
I need that dick. Unless you can find a better one, but I'm pretty sure mine's the best.
The best one. Anyway, back to his death. Now, to be quite honest, this might be one of the only times that we can ever remember where, after nationwide news like this, pretty much everyone in the country is on the same page and assuming that there's some really shady shit going on behind the scenes here and that we aren't being told the truth.
Yeah.
Now, first off, as soon as Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and thrown in jail, the general consensus seemed to be that, well, this guy's gonna be dead before he ever stands trial and names names.
Yeah. Turns out everyone was right.
Ah, wow. Everyone was right. And the amount of prominent figures that could be implicated in his decades-long underage sex trafficking network also adds to all this, because you'd be safe to assume that a lot of rich and powerful people wanted him dead before he could ever stand trial and potentially start naming names. And the circumstances in which he was able to actually kill himself involve an incredible amount of irregularities.
Yeah. Now, he was in jail. He was being federally investigated. He was a high-profile criminal in a special housing unit that's subject to much higher security and monitoring. Yet, he was able to go unmonitored for hours without being checked on, despite being put on suicide watch for a previous attempt made just a few weeks prior. There were apparently no security cameras monitoring his cell.
Why would we need those?
And one of the two guards assigned to monitor Epstein that night wasn't even a full-fledged correctional officer and was just apparently filling in for somebody. The reason he hadn't been checked on was because both of the guards had fallen asleep. Whoops. And they also attempted to cover up themselves falling asleep by falsifying documents related to the scheduled check-ins that they were supposed to do.
The details about Epstein's death were posted on 4chan almost an hour before the news actually broke through mainstream news outlets. Probably one of the EMTs or some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. An autopsy was completed a day later, but the medical examiner wouldn't officially confirm his cause of death, apparently because she required further information. According to the Washington Post, the private pathologist that was present during the autopsy, Michael Baden, also investigated the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. This guy's got to be old. Testified as a defense witness for O.J. Simpson and identified the bodies of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and Nazi Dr. Joseph... What?
Yeah,
Is this guy 100 fucking years
He's
old?
84, I believe. I read.
Yeah, I guess they didn't find the Romanov bodies for a while, so that does check out. Because otherwise, he'd have to be something like 120 years old.
Yeah, he's a career pathologist, but the reason this spawns even more conspiracy theories is that the list of work that he's done is it's JFK, Martin Luther King Jr.,
Yeah, those are all
Simpson, Joseph
conspiracy theories. Those are just more conspiracies.
Yeah, it's like, maybe get just this one time, specifically for this case, maybe get a different forensic pathologist.
Give me a clean pathologist with no ties to any highly controversial cases.
Not saying this guy isn't clean, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, when you get someone with that kind of history behind them, it just invites even more.
Yeah. That's not reassuring.
We're getting the guy who investigated JFK's murder and found and confirmed the body of Joseph Mengele, a person who was on the run for years from Germany, to go ahead and just give Epstein a look over. There's got to be at least dozens of pathologists, right?
Yeah, you would think.
There's probably more.
Anyway,
I don't know much about the field.
Speaking of autopsies, it just came out on Thursday This autopsy revealed that there were multiple broken bones in Epstein's neck, which is something that's not typically found to be the result of hanging yourself. I mean, it can sometimes happen, but the context in which it usually happens is from a drop.
He hung himself off of a bunk bed with a sheet, so not really.
I mean, if he like jumped off the top, maybe.
That kind of hanging is suffocation, cutting off the airflow.
No breathing. Don't give a fuck if you cut your arm bleeding.
Exactly. When you're hanged, you do snap the neck.
Yeah.
Because it's a quick, relatively painless death, apparently. But the fact that he has broken bones, obviously suspicious. Can happen, but suspicious.
Bit sus.
After his death, a New York Times reporter who'd interviewed him exactly almost a year ago was able to publish the story finally because an agreement which held Epstein's identity was obviously voided because he was dead now.
Someone should look into this guy.
So in the piece, Epstein excitedly shows off photos of him with rich and powerful people. Specifically, he shows off a photo of Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, who Epstein claimed he'd spoke to often and that MBS had visited him many times. He also claimed that he was working with Tesla as an advisor and that he'd spoken to the Saudis about possibly investing in Tesla, but that if it ever became public he was working with them, he'd have to stop doing so because he was radioactive, and also predicted that everyone at Tesla would deny talking to him or being his friend. Tesla has since denied any and all connections to Epstein. He also spoke about how he'd witnessed prominent tech figures taking drugs and arranging for sex.
This is just like everyone
everything that's ever been involved in anything touched this guy, apparently.
It's crazy. Anyway, Epstein's suicide also happened only a few hours after a court unsealed a large amount of documents that could have implicated some powerful people, including Prince Charles' little brother, who has since retired from public life.
A royal.
Nah, I'm done with public life. It's got nothing to do with anything. I'm just
bored of it.
Yeah, I'm just bored.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to see why this all looks sketchy as hell. And that's because it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everyone that we've seen or heard talking about this whole ordeal, including the mainstream media outlets, seem to be scratching their heads and trying to figure out how this could have happened. So it's incredibly ripe for conspiracy theories, and there are certainly no shortage of them. Honestly, we might never know the truth of what happened, and if we don't, that's because people far more powerful than any of us don't want people to know what happened.
Yes. Now, the focus currently is on one of Epstein's known co-conspirators who is accused of finding and grooming his underage victims, and that's Ghislaine Maxwell. During all of the most recent legal problems for Epstein, Maxwell had pretty much disappeared from public life. She was reportedly laying low in a mansion in Massachusetts. And in the wake of his death, her name and face obviously began popping up all over the news because she's someone who was known to work with him and would potentially have the most extensive knowledge of his shady dealings. Well, turns out she's no longer in Massachusetts because she was just spotted about 4 miles from where we're filming right now at an In-N-Out Burger having a nice meal and, we shit you not, reading a book with the title, The Book of Honor, The Secret Lives and Deaths of CIA Operatives.
Which In-N-Out was it?
The one by Universal Studios.
That is very close.
Yes.
I've eaten at that In-N-Out many times.
I certainly have as well. Nothing to say about the title of the book, though, Elliot?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's...
See, now
there's a whole...
To me, this is another thing that's far too on the nose. This is obviously the elites, the Illuminati, making her go in public and sit and eat at a location where she will be spotted reading a book that people would assume relates directly to him. Being a CIA operative, because that is another one of the conspiracy theories surrounding it.
That conspiracy is... I'm not even entirely sure I fully understand it, but it's that basically Jeffrey Epstein was just like a name and a face to cover for like a vast like money laundering, human trafficking operation run by our government and possibly various other governments.
Yeah.
It's too much.
There's
too much.
Also, there was a tabloid posted. There was they were going over pictures that were taken at his place, and there was what looked like Bill Clinton in a dress.
No, that's what it is.
Is that what it is?
It's Bill Clinton in a dress.
It was pretty grainy, but sure.
And like he was, I don't know if he was friends with Bill Clinton. He flew on a plane with Bill Clinton a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's weird.
Also, that Maxwell lady was. It doesn't appear that she was posing with Elon Musk, but she was in a photo with Elon Musk as recently as a year ago. when apparently he was working with Tesla, and it makes sense. Well, listen, we're still talking conspiracy theory here, but it lines up with the fact that he was trying to take Tesla private because he had funding secured, and then it came out months later that funding was apparently coming from the Saudis.
Right.
But he's lucky that he didn't do that because it also timed out with the killing of Khashoggi.
That would have been a real bad deal.
What was Khashoggi working on at the time? And the whole thing is just never ending.
Yeah. Well, now this makes me wonder why Elon Musk was so happy to just accuse an innocent man of being a pedophile, almost as if he doth protest too much.
Listen, we're talking conspiracy theories here. These are not facts.
Yeah. My Elon conspiracy theory.
Don't say it.
Very low level. I'm
Anyways.
not saying Elon Musk is a pedophile.
No.
I am not saying. Not saying it.
Good. This is all conspiracy theories, again. But there's a lot of them. It's like a figurehead of what people would assume the Illuminati was just cut out.
What's Alex
Disappeared.
Jones saying about all this?
Why? I don't know. Where is he?
If this was like 10 years ago, like you could really rely on Alex Jones. Like this would be like one of the few times where I'm like, I actually want to know what Alex Jones has to say. But he's become so like, I don't know. He's very biased politically. He used to be more of a renegade. Now I'm just like, he's obviously going to talk about the Clintons and not even mention any Trump connection at all.
YouTube banned all the conspiracy theorists just a little too soon.
Is Susan involved?
Susan, what are you doing? We gotta get the red string out and tie Susan to
How deep does this go?
all the way to the bottom. All the way to hell.
Probably. Literally.
Yes.
Anyways, also.
Oh yeah, bring that up.
Jesus Christ. There was, his bodyguard was named and identified. It's a former UFC fighter from Russia. And he did a little interview this week. It was actually a follow-up interview to an interview he did a couple of years back that never got published. And in the original interview, he talked a lot about how Jeffrey Epstein was around a lot of young women all the time. The writer, this time, he's just like, well, let me just read back some of your quotes from the first interview. And everything about the young girls, he was like, no, I don't think I said that. No. And then there's like, the writer was like, so do you think he killed himself or was there something more to it? He's like, oh, he definitely didn't kill himself. Like, couldn't have done it alone. And he's like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, I shouldn't be talking about this. I really need to go. We really shouldn't be talking about this. You should be careful. You should really be careful. Anyway, bye. We'll talk soon. But don't talk about this.
Yeah, it was also in the days leading up to the suicide, like, apparently, emotionally, he was fine. Completely fine, showed no psychological signs of depression or anything like that. And I know that's the least of the craziness of all of this.
Right, because he has a kill switch where if he dies, all of the voyeur porn that he has saved goes out there. He's like, well, I'm going to live. But little does he know, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are together in the vault, taking out all the blackmail. Mm-hmm. They're like, all right, we're good to go. Green light.
Then they were like, they looked at each other, and then they were like, should we do it one more time? And they're like, yeah. And then they 69'd.
Yeah.
And everyone went, nice. And Obama was there. Fuck everything.
Yeah, I hate this story.
If we don't show up for Weekly Weird this week, you know where to find us. At the Internet, reading a book about the deaths of CIA operatives.
Yeah, just some light reading.
Anyways, that's honestly it for this episode. Again, apologies for not covering the latest movie news, but it was a slow week, and that allowed us to take a somewhat deeper dive into two crazy stories that we'd been wanting to cover. So thank you for watching. We'll be back soon with a new episode of Weekly Weird News. And remember, if you want to hear us chat more about this Epstein shit, we have that exclusive podcast on our Patreon. Check that out, and also watch our most recent videos over here. We will hopefully see you very soon, unless we get either deplatformed or delifed.
Who can you trust anymore?
Or delisted. Bye.
Bye.